The fantasy genre has given us a lot of wonderful couples. We've got Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, Lyra and Will, Durfel and Kenwyn, Tristan and Yvain, and so many more. We've also got our face palms like Jacob and baby Renesmee, Peter Pan and Wendy, and of course, Feyre and Rhysand. But one couple is so bad, not even the pedophilic dog can compare. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but still. That couple is Jamie and Claire Fraser. Are you surprised? Well, I just finished reading A Breath of Snow and Ashes, the sixth book in the projected 10 big books, Outlander series. There's some other stuff there, novellas, but whatever. Jamie and Claire's relationship is the through line that ties the numerous characters and plot lines together. Now, individually, these two aren't terrible, but when they get together, it's pretty bad. So I sat at work and wrote myself a little essay that is 2,249 words, which I'm reading off of right now, and you are about to watch, about why Jamie and Claire are the worst couple in fantasy. Let's talk about it. Book 1. So the first Outlander book is a bit of an outlier in that it takes place entirely from Claire's point of view. None of the other books do this, and throughout the entire series, only Claire's point of view is in first person. So yeah, it's a bit jarring to go reading from first person to third person, and it's only Claire that speaks in first person. It's weird. So the reason Diana Gabaldon did this was because she never actually planned to show Outlander to anybody. She wrote it for herself. But when it was published and did so well, she had to adapt the storytelling as the world and the story grew. And that's why the other point of views are in third person. It's not typically something a writer would or could do, but it's just how it turned out with Outlander. So, anyway, general plot, Claire Randall, who's married to Frank Randall, gets sent back in time when she hears a big stone vibrating in a stone circle. So she's sent from like 1945, 1946 back to the 1730s in the Scottish Highland during the Jacobite Rebellion, or Jacobites, as we Americans say. So, what were the Jacobites? Well, they were a bunch of rebels who wanted a Catholic king on the English throne. That's all they wanted. Sectarianism. What can I say? People die for it. And sometimes I get myself in trouble. But here, Claire meets James Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, a 23-year-old virgin with a dislocated shoulder. She pops it back into place and is held at the court of Jamie's uncle, Colum Mackenzie. I'm not sure how to say that name. But Claire, being the dumbass that she is, gets herself into a lot of trouble with the book's main villain, who happens to look just like her current husband, Frank. And so she marries Jamie in order to become a proper Scot. So Claire wasn't fond of the idea of marrying Jamie, and I don't think Jamie really thought much about it either, until their wedding night when they had sex thrice, and Jamie gives Claire an orgasm, which causes her to immediately get over her husband back home and want to stay with Jamie in the 18th century. At the end, they find out Claire's pregnant and decide to head for France to prepare Bonnie Prince Charlie for invasion. Book 2, Dragonfly and Amber. Dragonfly and Amber might be my favorite. So we fast forward immediately for 20 years. My pigs are choking on their on their cucumbers. Are you okay, Snazzy? So we jump back 20 years, jump forward 20 years in time. It's the 60s. So if you've ever seen the show, the last episode of season 2, the way it opens with Roger in front of the TV and Bree is there and all that, that's basically the first chapter of Dragonfly and Amber. It's kind of cool. But it's a frame narrative so that all the action is told via Claire relaying her story to her daughter Brianna and Roger. This brings us to our new characters. The majority of the characters we meet in this novel will remain with us through the end of book 6. But the 3 main ones you need to remember are Brianna, Roger, and Fergus. Let's start with Fergus. Fergus is an orphan. Jamie takes in and he finds stealing at a brothel. So Fergus is lifting shit at the brothel, Jamie adopts him, and he's like 10 at that time. So as the whole Jacobite rebellion machinations are going on, Spaz, are you okay, baby? Don't eat the seeds so fast. Are going on. Claire's pregnancy is progressing. She's volunteering at a charity hospital where she's making some friends, and with the nuns that volunteer there and the socialites, she's having a good time. So everything's going well. Claire, Jamie, and little Fergal, they're living happily as a family until the main villain rapes Fergus. Okay, yes, absolutely. Raping a little boy is punishable by death, I would say. But the way Jamie goes about it in Dragonfly and Amber is all wrong. So the main villain, Jack Randall, deserved to die. How does Jamie decide to kill him? He duels the dude. Bro, why not just go kill the guy? Or send somebody to go shoot him, go stab him in the back. Don't duel him. There are better ways to kill a person. So dueling is illegal in France. And Claire finds out Jamie is dueling. When she finds this out, she is so distraught that she goes into labor and has a stillbirth, which she has to endure without Jamie because Jamie gets himself arrested and is locked up in the Bastille. Yeah, okay. So I already wasn't too fond of Jamie just because he's not my type of guy, okay? That childlike enthusiasm isn't really something I find attractive. I'm more drawn to the stoic, sensitive bad boy type. I don't know, Levi and Love on the Brain or King Arthur in the Warlord series. But this is where Jamie just went from not being my type of leading man to just one of the worst love interests in all of fantasy. So by the end, they decide to return to Scotland and try to win the Battle of Culloden. But Claire's pregnant again. She goes back to the 20th century so she can safely deliver their baby. So she goes back through the stones and she names him Brianna after Jamie's father, Brian. Book 3, Voyager. I really liked Voyager a lot. Anything to do with seafaring and the Royal Navy just really gets me, and I love it. My guinea pigs are still choking. But another thing this book has on top of sea travel is flashbacks. This is the book where it kind of fills in the gap between that 20-year period we left Outlander and where we caught up in Dragonfly and Amber. So we get flashbacks to Claire's relationship with her husband in the 20th century and flashbacks to what happened to Jamie after he loses the Battle of Culloden. So Claire's really awful to her husband Frank, who has agreed to love and raise Jamie's baby as if it's his own, and stay with Claire despite the fact that she has admitted that she no longer loves him. And there's a lot of marriage drama that we get to witness, but needless to say, Claire and Frank don't exactly live happily ever after. And then, in Jamie's point of view, there's an incident where he almost gets caught taking refuge in his sister's house because he's a fugitive at this point, and this results in poor little Fergus getting his hand cut off as punishment. All pretty bad, but there's a major point in Voyager where Jamie goes from being just an idiot to absolutely irredeemable. This is the point of no return, and if you've read the Outlander novels, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm going to talk about here, but I'm going to give you my point of view on it. Most people take Jamie's side on this, but I don't. So to set the scene, we've got Jamie. He's our war criminal who has rebelled against the crown and fighting against the British for what, I remind you, is an extremely stupid cause. The Jacobite rebellion was not like the American Revolution. The Jacobites weren't being oppressed or hard done by. They just didn't have what they wanted. So Jamie, after getting caught and losing a rebellion, disguises his identity and goes to work as a groom for a British family. He would have been executed, like all his friends after the battle, but he had gotten a lucky break. You can read that for yourself, not worth talking about it. So keep that in mind too. He was already a dead man, basically. So the wealthy kind of gentry family he works for has a daughter that's going to be married off to a nasty old man. And the girl, her name's Geneva, wants her first time to be with someone hot. So she blackmails Jamie into sleeping with her after finding a letter from his sister. Now, it works differently in the show, remember? But in the book, he finds a letter to Jamie's sister, or from Jamie's sister, I'm not sure. And it says this. I'm going to read verbatim from Voyager exactly what's happening. I expect Papa will find it very interesting reading, she said, especially the little bit about the gold to be sent to Lochiel in France. Isn't it still considered treason to be giving comfort to the king's enemies? Tisk, she said, clicking her tongue roguishly. How wicked. Yes, actually, it is treason. So even after being spared the firing squad, losing his friends, his little buddy Fergus, his adopted son, being dismembered, killing people at Preston Pans and Culloden, Jamie still has not learned his lesson and is engaging in treasonous acts as a matter of routine. Keep that in mind. So now Geneva knows Jamie's real name and he's pissed, but agrees to sleep with her. And she doesn't like it. He doesn't like it when she calls him. Ooh. Geneva calls Jamie by his given name, and he tells her not to do that. She says, why not? It's yours. Your sister calls you so. He hesitated for a moment, then deliberately laid the letter aside and bent his head to the laces of his breeches. I'll serve you properly, he said, looking down at his working fingers, for the sake of my own honor as a man, and yours as a woman. But, he raised his head, and the narrowed blue eyes bored into hers. Having brought me to your bed by means of threats against my family, I'll not have you call me by the name they gave me. Remember, Jamie brought this upon his own family by committing treason, killing British soldiers, breaking firearms laws, and running from the authorities. So let's move on into the bedroom. Don't worry, it doesn't get any bigger. This is after she saw his dick. And it will not do anything strange if you want to touch it. At least he hoped it wouldn't. Being naked in such close proximity to a half-clad girl was doing terrible things to his powers of self-control. His traitorous, deprived anatomy didn't care a whit that she was a selfish, blackmailing little bitch. Get the fuck over yourself, Jamie. He touched the girl, gently, stroking her between the thighs. She didn't part them for him, but didn't resist. She was faintly moist there. Perhaps it would be all right now. The effort to control made him dizzy, but he did it slowly, only easing himself the barest inch within. Ooh, said Geneva. Her eyes flew wide. Ugh, he said, and pushed a bit farther. Stop it! It's too big! Take it out! Panic, Geneva thrashed beneath him. Pressed beneath his chest, her breasts wobbled and rubbed so that his own nipples leapt erect in pinpoints of abrupt sensation. Her struggles were accomplished by force by what he had tried to do with gentleness. Half dazed, he fought to keep her under him while groping madly for something to say to calm her. But, he said, stop it! Take it out! She screamed. He clapped one hand over her mouth and said the only coherent thing he could think of. No, he said definitely, and shoved. Okay, let me say, what Geneva did to Jamie was not cool. It's not okay to blackmail anybody. Ever. That said, let's take a second to look back on everything that got Jamie here. Jamie, in no way, shape, or form, has ever been a victim of circumstance in the events leading up to his situation. Jamie put himself there by his own actions. Up until this moment, Jamie had been a traitor, a fugitive. He had broken gun laws. He had illegally stayed with his sister's family, putting them in danger, and had participated in an illegal duel that triggered a stillbirth. Now, 25% of the way into Voyager, he becomes a rapist. Take it out, she screamed. No, he said, definitely, and shoved. What might have been a scream emerged through his fingers as a strangled eep. Geneva's eyes were huge and round, but dry. In for a penny, in for a pound, the saying drifted absurdly through his head. Leave nothing in its wake but a jumble of incoherent alarms and a marked feeling of terrible urgency down between them. There was precisely one thing he was capable of doing at this point, and he did it. His body ruthlessly usurping control as it moved to the rhythm of its inexorable pagan joy. So this encounter leaves little Geneva pregnant to later die in childbirth. So an arrangement is made so that the baby, William, can grow up and inherit the title, all of that. But Jamie knows that the baby's his, and a few others know. But guess who doesn't know? Claire doesn't know Jamie has another child, and Jamie never tells her. So Claire, like he does in the show, In the show, he tells her. In the books, Claire figures it out herself. She finds a way to pass back through the stones again and go live with Jamie, leaving her beloved daughter Brianna, who's what, like 20 at this time? Like, bitch needs her mom. Leaving her alone in the 20th century. Frank's dead at this time. So Jamie never tells Claire about William. She finds a photograph and figures it out in which she's mad for like 2 minutes and then gets over it about as quickly as she got over Frank. It's like whenever something bad that has anything to do with Jamie is like, as long as it's Jamie, then Claire's fine. Yes, I'm using a mouse. That's not rational. And I'm sorry, guys, but this is Stockholm Syndrome. Long story short, a bunch of stuff happens and they end up together in North Carolina to start a new life. Book 4, Drums of Autumn. Drums of Autumn is actually my least favorite Outlander book. And so much actually happens in this book that it almost feels like nothing happens. It's kind of like the sixth Harry Potter book in the way that it's almost exclusively just set up for the next book, with lots of exposition coming to light and flashbacks, and it's just all over the place. I honestly don't remember much of what Jamie did in this book, other than being just like big and loomy and scary and accidentally beating Roger within an inch of his life, but I'll excuse that. Book 5, The Fiery Cross. The Fiery Cross was actually my favorite Outlander book up until book 6. The Fiery Cross takes place right on the eve of the Revolutionary War. At this point, Jamie, Claire, Brianna, Roger and Bree's son Jimmy are living in North Carolina in the 1700s. This is a book where legitimately not much happens. There's a lot of infighting and family drama, and it's mostly just kind of household drama, small town politics. And Claire finds a skull with some fillings in it from a guy named Ottertooth. Like, it's hard to get into what's going on without, like, reading the other books. But at this point, the story pretty much half and half focuses between Jamie and Claire and Roger and Bree. Roger and Bree take up as much space in the story as Jamie and Claire do, and at some points they even seem to overshadow them. So the only awful thing I can really think of that Jamie did in this novel was consistently call Claire fat, and she got really offended, but then he bought her a cat to make up for it, and she forgave him. Book 6, A Breath of Snow and Ashes. Hey, A Breath of Snow and Ashes is a doozy. It is 506,000 words. And for reference, both Oathbringer and Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson are under 460,000 words. And unlike Drums of Autumn and the Fiery Cross, A Breath of Snow and Ashes has a really self-contained story. Like, this book has an actual plot all its own and is really fascinating, and you definitely need reference for it, but the main thing that I hate in relation to Jamie and Claire in this book is that Bree has another baby, named Amanda. But little Amanda has a heart defect, and she has to go back through the stones to get surgery. But guess who doesn't go through the stones? Claire. She stays with Jamie. Claire willingly separates herself again from her daughter and her 2 grandchildren, one of which is about to have heart surgery. Again. She should have gone. She should have gone to be with her grandchildren. She should have gone to be with her daughter. And even if Jamie couldn't go, she should have gone. She should not have stayed with Jamie. At all. In conclusion, Claire chooses Jamie over everything. Jamie, no matter all the terrible things he does, can do no wrong in Claire's eyes. Jamie influences every decision Claire makes from the moment he gives her an orgasm in book 1. Their relationship controls pretty much everything in Claire's life, and Claire can't make a decision without thinking of Jamie first. She's no longer her own person after she marries him, and you can see throughout the books that Claire is extremely intelligent, just not when things involve Jamie. There's also the argument that could be made that Claire never really had a lot of emotional intelligence or maturity to begin with. So the fact that someone as self-pitying and foolish as Jamie influences the way she does things really shouldn't be surprising. But it's the way Gabbleton presents it that makes it so bad. Like, these two are worse than Faber and Reese Ann, and they might even be approaching Romeo and Juliet territory. I love Outlander. I love the characters, I love the magic, the Celtic lore, and I love how real and alive everything feels. Jamie and Claire both feel like real people, but I still really want to punch them both in the face.